Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Casey Gilboy podcast, where I say, let's talk about anything. I started a new series called Casey and Friends, where I interview people I know who have experience in knowledge in many areas of their life. So today, I'm interviewing my good friend Laura, who is an amazing woman of God. I met Laura at church when we were in fifth grade in Omaha, Nebraska. So we've known each other a long time. Laura has struggled with cancer for most of her life and has been pressing into Jesus despite the hardships she has endured. She has amazing parents and extended family and is married to a wonderful man. Laura is so wonderful, and it's just amazing to see God providing for all her needs and to see her incredible faith and trust in Jesus. So, on our podcast today, Laura will be sharing about her journey with cancer and how she has overcome many obstacles and found success and victory in life through Christ. I could probably interview Laura a million times on this podcast because of all the things she has gone through in life. So, first of all, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Laura. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, and what led up to your first cancer diagnosis?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Casey. Before I share my story, um, I have felt the Lord tell me time and time again, because I'm also writing a book and devotional, and I'll share more about that later. But I felt him say, "To whom much is given, much is required." And though had a lot of losses in my life, I God has definitely given me so much. And my name means victorious spirit. And so as I share this quote, um, it exemplifies how I want to live my life, because of all that God has done for me. So it's from Tiffany from House of Blessings. And she says, I am compelled to share my story in such a way where every teardrop of Jesus' blood makes the enemy pay. The devil has thrown so many darts my way. And even this morning, as I was sharing before we started, I was having an ocular blurry issue that I've had, for quite some time now. And as Christians, we have the authority to say no, to tell the devil to go. And so I'm taking that authority, and I have throughout my journey, but it's been hard. Um, and so and also we read different miracles in the Bible, and we think, oh, those are amazing, but they can never happen today. They were just things that happened in the Bible. And it's so not true. It's so not true. We have the authority. And so I'm believing in that, now and for my future. Well, first off, my name is Laura Saechao. I was born in Edina, Minnesota. Grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm the oldest of my siblings. I have a younger sister and brother. And in 1989, my family moved to California.
Yeah, I was very sad about that.
Oh, cultural change for sure. I mean, it was like one of the hardest things at that time in my life that I've ever experienced. I mean, left our family, our church, school, home, just everything. It was really hard. Um, and at that time we didn't know, but my dad ended up being our principal. So we moved for a job change. So
How fun
so
was
that
that?
that definitely brought on some like interesting, awkward times, but um God led us through that. Um and myself. Um and so then we moved and went to high school in California, and then ended up going to William Jessup University in Rockland, California, majored in theology and intercultural studies. Um, and God allowed me to be able to travel. He gave me a few healthy breaks throughout my life, and I was able to travel to Jamaica 3 times and worked with orphans. And for my college internship, I stayed at an orphanage for about a month up in the Blue Mountains in Kingston, Jamaica. And then later in life, I moved back to Omaha and for about a year and went to India with a small group of women um, at Glad Tidings, the church that we attended, and did work with women and children in sex trafficking and in the red light district, and did vacation Bible schools. And then I was able to also travel to Mozambique, Africa, and did Heidi and Roland Baker's School of Ministry. And so God definitely blessed me and opened those doors. And that was what I majored in. But sadly, beyond those trips, um, wasn't able to do a lot of missions work beyond those. I ended up teaching for over 10 years and met my husband online. His name is Kao, spelled Kao, not Cow. He's so funny. So he'll tell people if we're at Starbucks, he'll write Nick or he'll tell people Nick because he doesn't want to deal with the drama of people misspelling or mispronouncing his name.
Yeah, Americans have
So
a
he's
hard
like, let's just
time.
keep it simple. So I guess a lot of his friends, when they immigrated, and I'll share that in a little bit, um, gave themselves American names.
Yeah.
So it wasn't weird or anything, but
Yeah.
not to them. He's Mian. He was born in Laos and later with his family moved to Thailand. They were in 2 different refugee camps due to the communist regime. Um, and he had an uncle that had immigrated to the States prior, and he was able to sponsor them so his family could come to the US. And so they immigrated, and Cal was a little boy. Um, but his story is amazing. He should have a podcast too or share his story.
Yes.
Um, but God brought us together. We met online, as I mentioned, and we dated for about 2 years. And we're married in 2016, and this past June just celebrated our 9-year anniversary.
Yay.
And we live in the Bay Area. Um, my parents and my sister and her family live in California. My brother is in New York and has lived there for several years, and he loves it there. Um, but so my husband and I love to travel. I love to research stuff. I love to research coffee places. Um, just, we're close to the ocean and the mountains, and it's just kind of our getaway, just to physically and mentally just heal. And he loves to fish, so I've gone with him on a few of those adventures. I don't fish myself. I have when we were dating, but I like to go and just sit and take in nature and read a book or write. So,
You're his emotional support fisher friend.
yes. Yeah. He loves when I go with him. Yeah. Um, so that's a little bit about myself and my family. Going into, so it was a week prior to my diagnosis. My mom was scheduled for an ultrasound and at the time didn't have anyone to care for me. And so it was a special exception that the doctors made. So my mom was able to bring me. She was pregnant with my younger sister at the time. So the doctors did a really good job of explaining, okay, this is what we're doing with your mom. Because I was a little girl. I was
Mhm.
like 2.5. And so that was very helpful. But we had no idea that about a week later I would have my own ultrasound. Um, and so going into that, my doctor had ordered this ultrasound, my pediatrician, because I was having some bruising, petechiae, and just feeling weak. And so my grandma was able to accompany my mom and um, me to that appointment. And going in, it was stormy. It was in Omaha, Nebraska. So you know the weather, crazy humidity, stormy, rainy, just not fun. And then coming out of that appointment, it was so nice. The sun was out, there was a rainbow, and my grandma looked at my mom and said, Laura's gonna be okay. So we went home, and later that night, my doctor also wanted to order some lab work just to be safe. And so later that night, my mom got a phone call from my doctor saying, you have to take Laura to the ER right now. And she was making dinner, and I was sitting at the kitchen table coloring, and she's like, and my doctor said, um, oh, the results of the ultrasound indicated that my spleen was enlarged.
Wow.
And so when we later she got the blood work back, and my platelets were really extremely low. Um, and so she said, you're going to have to wrap her up in a pillow because if she moves or twists or anything in her car seat, she could bleed to death.
Wow.
I'm trying to put myself in my mom's shoes. Like, I just can't even imagine.
No.
There was no time for her to even think or anything. She had to do what the doctor said and take me to the ER immediately.
Oh my
And when
goodness.
we got there, they took me up to the oncologist unit. It was at Children's Hospital in Omaha. And and then the next morning, they greeted my parents and said, the doctors said, we're so sorry, but your daughter has leukemia.
Mhm.
And leukemia isn't a stage cancer like two, three, four, but
Mm.
um, if it would have been, mine would have been like three or four.
Mm.
So they said there are 9 different protocols, 6 are not radiation, and 3 are. And she could go into remission fast, but we have to act as soon as possible. And my parents, they felt overwhelmed, I'm sure. And my mom said that she just felt this oil, this warm oil just fall on her head of just this sweet peace.
Mm.
I should have brought tissues. So emotional. Um, just reassuring her and my dad that everything was going to be okay and that I was going to be okay.
Mhm.
So they moved forward and they chose one of the radiation protocols. Um, and so in this journey, um, I met with the radiologists down the line, and they had to do special markings on my body for, where the radiation was supposed to go. So I had spinal and cranial radiation.
Mm.
And so apparently I had a bit of a sense of humor because my mom told me that I said to the radiologist, didn't your mom ever tell you you're not supposed to write on anything but paper?
Oh my goodness, you had some wit.
She said I was born obedient, just I would listen to my parents and I would do what the doctors and the nurses said after they explained to me, you know, I was 2.5. So you gotta you gotta share those things, in a way that was appropriate for a child.
Yeah.
Um, so I somewhat remember walking into the room. So it was dark, it was cold, and I had to be alone.
Mm.
There was a waiting room where they had a TV where my parents could see me and communicate with me if need be.
Mm.
And I remember one time I just started crying, and the tech was like, "It's okay, Laura, we're almost done." And apparently at the time I was the only child.
Mm.
Um, that they, were doing radiation treatments on
Mm.
for whatever reason. But, and about 100%, 90 to 100% of the children needed to be strapped down, and I didn't.
Oh.
Um, my mom inquired as to, why she can't cry, and so the tech had to explain to all of us that if I cry, that the radiation will go to other parts in my body. And we want to get the bad cells, not the good cells. Although with radiation, you can't,
Yeah.
I mean, you know my story. I
Yeah.
mean, radiation went everywhere. But but I was little, and so they had to share that in a way where, I'd be able to just lay still and I had to keep my spine still. And my mom, they stopped the treatment. My mom was able to come in with a Kleenex and just call me and say everything's gonna be all right.
Mm.
I'm so proud of you. You have this. We're right outside. And so um, from that point on, they became routine in a way, like
Mhm.
routine for a 2.5-year-old,
Mm.
whatever that means. But it was easier once I knew what I was expected to do. They explained everything to me. I could go in and just lay there, and the treatments usually lasted about 15 to 20 minutes, so they weren't extremely long.
Mm.
Um, and so um, from that point on, um, God just gave us complete peace. Um, I went into remission. Well, they continued treatments. I went into remission. Um, I believe it was like either a couple weeks or a couple months. I have that written down. Um, but they wanted to continue the treatment, so I didn't relapse.
Mhm.
And then the sign behind me, it says, "The sun shines on Laura." The nurses at the hospital um, made that for me when I went into remission and left the hospital.
Oh.
But my parents changed the U to an O, so Jesus shined on me.
Mm. I love that.
So I thought that was really special. Oh, and to kind of go back to when I shared about my missions trips, the painting um, was done by my grandma, who's an artist, my maternal grandma. And she's 94, by the way. Shout out to her.
Yay, Grandma.
She just turned 94. Um, and so I gave her a picture of me holding a baby in Jamaica, and she painted that. So I have that and will always cherish that.
It's beautiful.
Um, so, ways to distract me in the hospital because my parents needed distraction too. Um, so living in Nebraska, go Huskers.
Yay!
My dad and I would play a game and we would count all the red cars in the parking lot.
Mm.
And I was in an isolation room, so I couldn't have people visit me, that weren't authorized, um, whatnot. And my cousin was going to school at the time, and my aunt was working in daycare, so they couldn't come up and see me in person. So my mom took me to the window, and um, my aunt and cousin were outside, so it gave me a chance to see family and know that I still had my community and still had, other family members that cared for me,
Mm.
um, and that were there even though they couldn't be there in person. Um, and that's a lot for a kid. That's a lot for a child to know that they have a community and that they're being supported, even through all the fear and all the questions. I remember my mom would play Amy Grant music, one of her older albums, and to this day, I I love it. It's as if it's taking me back in some way to when I was in the hospital. She would play it while I was resting or um, before I would have bone marrow treatments. And I have pictures of those. Oh, here's a picture of my family.
Oh,
This was Christmas, or excuse me, January when my brother came to visit from New York last year.
oh, fun.
Um, and then I have pictures from this was Mozambique, Africa, with two friends.
Oh, so
And
fun.
then here's the first time I went to, oh no, this was actually my internship.
Oh, how
I'm
sweet.
sorry. I don't know if there's like a bad reflection, but
You can see it.
okay. Um, and then for the other pictures, oh, I'm backtracking. Here are pictures of my husband and I at our wedding, and when he proposed
Oh,
in Tahoe, South Lake Tahoe, at Emerald Bay, and my parents were in on the whole thing.
of course they were. Your
He
parents are,
wanted them there.
yes, your
Knew
parents
that that was important for me.
yeah, your parents are so important to you. I just love that they were part of that story. That makes sense.
Here's a picture of the top one is a picture of me with my dad before I called them back pokes, but because the cancer had spread to my bone marrow, so I had to have bone marrow treatments. Um, and then the bottom one is me dumping out my prednisone, my
Mm,
steroid, because I
mm,
had to be on those and Decadron, and um, yeah, not those were not fun.
mm.
Um, and then here's a picture of me when I lost my hair, and then a picture of me kissing my baby sister.
Oh,
My mom always said, I have one daughter who's born and alive, and another daughter fighting for her life.
mm. Wow, I've never seen some of these pictures
And
before.
um, and then my hair is kind of going back on the bottom one.
Mm.
Um,
Were you too young to care at
uh,
that point about your hair, or did that bother you at that age?
it didn't bother me, but I think it maybe mattered a little bit to my parents because they didn't want people making fun of me or pointing because I was super scrawny, thin, weak, had no hair. They didn't want,
Mm.
people thinking, oh, you know,
Hmm.
is that a boy? They just all the different questions. You know how kids are
Yeah.
to tease, but it didn't. And I think it was either my grandma or my granddad who said, She's cute. Just let her be without covering her hair. It doesn't." And then now, like, I still have to cover my head. Um, but yeah, no, it didn't matter then. But now, as an adult, it matters more to me.
Hmm.
Um, I was gonna go back. Oh, I shared it at the beginning that my name means victorious spirit. And my life verse is Jeremiah 29:11, which is, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future."
Mm. It's beautiful.
So I know that's, everyone kind of clings to that verse once in a while, but I truly believe that
Mm-hmm.
Jesus didn't want any harm done on my life. We can't choose what happens to us in life. And so I cling to that verse. Um, I also shared a little bit earlier how I'm writing. I don't know if I mentioned to you earlier, but I'm writing a devotional
Mm-hmm.
about hearts.
Yes, you
I'm,
told me.
yeah, it's called the uh, Father's Heart.
Mm.
And so there are various hearts that I've received. Um, God's just given them to me, either like on rocks on the beach or in food or just kind of anywhere, on carpet and on the floor. Um, and so I want to write this in order to encourage people um, who are going through hard times, darkness, that they too can have some sort of encouragement and even joy through their journey.
Mm.
Um,
That's
so
beautiful.
after I went into um, remission, my let me get the pictures for that. When I was done being poked, chemoed, radiated, all of that stuff, um, my parents, I was 5 years old. My parents took me to Disneyland and SeaWorld to celebrate my life.
Oh,
This is so my hair grew back,
yeah.
like, super thick. I always look back at pictures, from years ago and miss hair.
I love it. You're rocking it.
And then this was at SeaWorld with my mom. And my dad was there too. Um, Most importantly though, my mom felt very much that they needed to celebrate my life, have a huge party. Um, it would have been totally different, if there would have been a funeral and she felt that people would just come to the funeral and maybe not hear, the gospel. And so she sent out like over 100 invitations, and it was, for the gospel to be heard. And so people could see the miraculous healing that God did in my life and in my family too. Um, you don't do this alone, especially not as a 2-year-old. I mean, it definitely takes a community. It takes a lot of people. And so my dad's coworkers were invited. My grandparents invited their friend. Anyone, it didn't matter. Anyone who fought the journey with us or who knew or who had been praying were invited to a huge celebration of life party at Glad Tidings Church. Um, I shared two verses, Nehemiah 8:10, the joy of the Lord. Well, the way I said it then was, the joy of the Lord is my strength. And then John 14:6, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. There were people dancing, singing. I remember they played Michael W. Smith's Great is the Lord song. So even to this day, that song means a lot to our family.
Mm.
Um, and just for people to be able to come together and conversate with people and just hear more about my story and what God did for me.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Um, and then I recently went back to Omaha to visit my grandma and my aunt. And so I have a picture of I'm standing in front of the children's hospital, and they now have statues of children holding umbrellas. So at night they light up.
Mm. That's so sweet.
So I just going back, looking at that picture now, just
Mm.
everything I went through as a child. Um, God did so much.
He did.
So, um, obviously, due to all the radiation I had when I was little, um, I've had a lot of issues, in high school and then into my adulthood. And so I was diagnosed with asthma in junior high. I was later diagnosed with hypothyroidism. My thyroid was basically inactive, like the radiation just shut it down. And so that ended up being Graves' disease. And so I had my thyroid removed. And then in college, I had a cyst burst, which resulted in the doctors finding a tumor on my right ovary.
Mm.
So non-cancerous tumor, but they needed to remove it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, all of these are because of the radiation I had.
Mm.
Um, I have had 9 basal cell skin cancers on my head. Um, and they grow fast. It doesn't matter. I mean, I have to cover my head now, but and being in the sun, I'd cover my head anyway, but they're
Mm.
due to radiation.
Mm.
And so I've had 9 of those, and the procedure to um, remove those are called Mohs surgeries. Um, and they go in layer by layer. So they do one at a time. And my first one that I ever had was in Omaha, and that was 8 layers deep. Um,
Goodness.
so that was that was not fun. Um, I have MRIs, excuse me, every 3 months. I've had 5 craniotomies for meningioma tumors, um, 9 uh, tumors total. They grow fast. They're not cancerous, and they kind of go by grades. So 1, 2, 3, 3 not being good, and then 4 is the worst.
Mm.
Um, I currently have a new one, kind of above my left ear area, and so I follow up with my neurologist to receive the MRI results. Um, in in 2021, I lost my job due to COVID. Our church shut down due to COVID, and then I had these tumors just start to grow. And so had to follow up with my neurologist, and I started a clinical trial. And I was on oral chemo, didn't last very long. I ended up having mouth sores, headaches, and it wasn't successful. So that ended. And then in 2024, I started a trial with USC in LA at the Keck Cancer Center. So it was a plant-based chemical that I had to inhale 4 times a day. So it was like a nebulizer.
Mm-hmm.
If for those of you who are familiar with that, kids with asthma, if you have it yourself. But I have those pictures that I can share as well, just to kind of give an idea of what that looks like. So there are several pictures, um, and I'll just kind of go over. So it's the bottom picture with my sister. We, my family members took turns taking me down there.
Mm.
And so is this mask thing that I had to wear over my head and do that 4 times a day.
Wow.
And sadly, that lasted a couple months. I had to journal every treatment that I did, my side effects after, how I was feeling, if I had any symptoms or any, anything out of the norm. Um, and these are just a few other pictures. Not every, like another, my husband, I tried to put them all together so you could see them, but my husband with me at one of my surgeries, and then my parents, and um, my husband at me at one of my favorite coffee shops. It's called Chocolate Fish in Sacramento. Um, and it just became kind of one of the places that we would go after my doctor appointments.
Mm.
Um, and and then I had to have, it's called a gamma knife procedure, so more radiation. So I had more radiation even after, I was 2.5, but at this point I can't have any more. So gamma knife is they screwed into my kind of the size of my head and in the back of my head, um, so that the radiation, so I wouldn't move my head. So when they did the radiation, it would go to that direct area. And then following that, I had to have 7 weeks of additional radiation, um, where I had to go in and lie down, and this was every day. So I got to ring the bell. I had to wear this whole face mask thingy,
Mm.
and I got to ring the bell.
Oh.
Um, but that the clinical trial in 2024 ended because the tumors began to grow. So they basically had to kind of kick me out. So
Mm.
that's what leads me to the surgery that I had last year. September 9th was the worst surgery. It was the hardest surgery.
Mm.
Didn't feel like myself. There was a lot of spiritual warfare going on.
Mhm.
Um, I was miserable. I um, They resected 3 tumors because one, we're not quite sure, and we were never told if when I was taking the treatments, the 4 times a day, inhaling the treatments, um, if the tumor grew because of that. But at that point, I only had 2. But after that, there was a third one that grew back here. So last year in September, I had those resected, and they also had to do a skin graft, a second skin graft actually, because I had to have the first one because my skin was thinning, um, and the mesh that I had in my head came through. And so they did one in 2019. They took skin from my left leg, put it to my arm, and then took, you can, I don't know if you can see very well, but
Can you point to it
and
with
then
your
they took
finger?
that skin and put it to my head. That thinned over time. And so when they were doing the surgery to resect the 3 tumors in September, they ended up taking a large um, chunk out of my right thigh. So now I have my left and right thigh scars. Um, but they took muscle and tissue, so it's thicker now, so I won't ever have to fear this skin thinning.
Hmm.
Um, but it's funny because like on my arm, there's no hair here. So before I never saw hair. Well, there's hair on this part of my thigh. So when they first did it, I saw little tiny hairs and I felt like a chia pet. Um, and so I had I can show you pictures of that. And I had like 80 plus staples. Um, it was quite traumatic. Um, so here's the size of the one tumor on, it's called the sinus in your brain.
Hmm.
And that was the same location where I had all that radiation years prior, where they had to do the gamma knife, and then I went in for the 7 weeks of radiation.
Hmm.
Here's um, so that so after all that radiation, um, the tumor um, never went away. It didn't minimize. It just became stable at that point. Um, but then it began to grow again um, in 2021. So here's a picture of the size of the tumor
Mm. Wow.
that they resected that was on my sinus. And um, because of its location, they were able to remove the tumor, but there are still some residual cells in this area. Um,
Hmm.
and so I have this area and then the small little one um, that we're watching very closely. And then this is my thigh. Yeah, about like 40 staples.
Oh man. Wow.
So it's and that didn't heal right because they didn't tell me that there could be an issue with, people are different. You could have issues with the sutures
Hmm.
healing inside. So for a long time, we all thought it was infected. It wasn't infected. It was just my body, healing and adapting to
Hmm.
sutures and then, the
Wow.
metal staples in my body. Um, and then so prior or since then, I've had, oh, here's a picture of my head. I could get it right.
Wow.
So that was my head after they did the surgery.
Mm.
And then I followed up with an ENT doctor who it's kind of like liposuction, where they go in and they take the excess fat.
Hmm.
And so here are some pictures of those. So this is,
Wow. That's incredible that they're able to go in and do that. So your
so
head kind of has a,
yeah, and my doctor has offered to, take more. And I said, "Psh, I'm done.
yeah.
You want to pay for these medical bills? Then we'll talk. Because they're adding up. Um, and so I will follow up with my oncologist, neurologist, the end of August and move on from there. Um, so that's kind of, everything I've been through because of the radiation. But
Hmm.
my parents believe that without that radiation, without that protocol, I mean, that God chose that protocol.
Hmm.
God knew what was going to happen. God knew what they were going to choose and what my life would look like, from that point on.
Hmm.
And my parents will often apologize to me for everything that I've had to endure, you know, since those childhood years.
Mm.
Um, but I, so, yeah, just some side effects. Um, Weight gain, hair loss, how many IVs, how many MRIs, how many staples, how many lidocaine injections in my head. I mean, it's on and on. And I've definitely had mix of emotions, anger, fear, exhaustion, um, days where I just stay in bed, um, because I battle headaches from time to time. And um, as I mentioned at the beginning, these ocular issues, um, which I am seeing a oncologist, ophthalmologist in September. So hopefully he'll be able to give answers as to why I'm um, having those. I did have a small TIA after my surgery last year, September. Um, my parents took me out for a drive. I just stayed in the car up to Apple Hill, which is one of my favorite places to go in the fall. It's up towards my parents' house. They have apple orchards and donuts, and um, it's a fun place to go. So, and they wanted me to get out. I wanted to get out
Mm.
just to have a change of scenery and um, unwind a bit. And when we got home, my mom was having a conversation with me, and I couldn't answer. I couldn't respond. I knew in my head what the answer was, but I couldn't verbally speak it. Um, and she asked several questions, um and I started to cry because I knew what was happening in my body, but I couldn't change anything. I couldn't, make myself talk. And so they had to call an ambulance and I was taken to the ER. We stayed like 24 hours. They did all these tests on me and they said it was most likely due to the swelling in my brain. And I haven't had another one since, praise God. Um, um, but I know for so many people, um, if you're an individual who is experiencing health issues now, um, I encourage community. I strongly urge you to not isolate yourself because isolation can open the doors for depression, and that's not healthy. So, if possible, to call friends, call people. If you have that one person in your life that you know will just drop everything, I mean, not everyone can be that person, but if you have that one person, um, to be with you for, like, I wasn't able to drive myself for a lot of these treatments and MRIs. Even to this day, my dad will go with me because sometimes they're scheduled in the evening and I have headaches and you don't want to drive yourself. You need someone there to help you and support you and know that when you come out of that procedure that someone's going to be there waiting for you. You need, if you have children, you're going to need childcare. You're going to need someone to get you food. You're going to need um, you know, all the things, that if you're someone going through this, you know what you need. So be honest. And you're not always going to feel like peopling. I don't. There's been several times where I'm just like, I can't be around people. I feel horrible about myself. I'm ugly. I don't have hair. Like I'm moody because of all the steroids I'm on. Um, everyone's journey is different, but um, for me, I'm so blessed that I've had that community and I've had people, and I've been so blessed that my family's local to be able to do that for me. Set boundaries too. Um, it's helpful to do that because not everyone um, is going to understand. Not everyone can empathize and know your feelings. And so it's good to set boundaries and be honest. Um, and all of the feelings that you're feeling are normal. So don't question as to why you're thinking, you know, you're doubting how you feel or how you look. I was definitely in that place last year in September. Um, it was one of the darkest times for me. And I had to have so many people just come around me. And I know even you, Casey, you prayed for me. I have so many people that have prayed for me throughout my life. So many people I don't even know. I'll have people come up to me that I know. It's just so and so is praying for you, or I pass this on to my prayer team, or so if you're a believer, get in the Word. The Word of God is so encouraging. If you're able to do that, and don't give up. Don't give up. Three of my favorite songs that I've listened to um, recently, and even during that dark time in September, "The Mighty Name of Jesus" by Hope Darst. "He Has Good Plans for Me" by Red Rocks Worship, and "The Blood" by Bethel Church. And then kind of going into, oh, I did want to read one quote to encourage those who need hope. Um, it's from Sarah Young, who is the author of the devotional Jesus Calling, one of my favorite devotionals. She says, "When adversity strikes and you thank me anyway, your trust in my sovereignty is a showpiece in invisible realms." So it's God talking to us. God saying, when you thank me, even in the hardest times in your life, in the darkest times when you want to give up, when you're freaking out about how huge your head is, or the staples, or everything, the time, the journey that you've been on, and you haven't had complete healing, thank me anyway. I just thought that was really powerful. So
So powerful. I'm
even
getting
though it's so
goosebumps.
easy to want to give up, God has a plan for you. I know God has a plan for me, and I know God has a plan for you. Um, and then for those who are supporting or um, in the journey, helping a loved one or a friend fight an illness or cancer, whatever it may be, um, listen, listen to them. Um, they're going to be honest with you, and sometimes they may feel like, oh, I don't want to bug this person because they're probably busy, but I need this, that, and the other thing if they wouldn't mind doing this. Um, Offer to do stuff for people. I know it was so encouraging for my parents, like endless nights waiting, long hours in the waiting room. And then the few nights where my mom and my sister were able to spend the night with me, those uncomfortable hospital couches and the hospital food, um, and the parking, it adds up. The exhaustion, they need to run home to shower or let the dog out or get the kids here and there because life is happening outside of um, that individual's journey. And there are other things that people need to take care of. So offer to be that person. I know my parents and myself, because you're not only, you're blessing, when you bless the family, you're blessing the individual who has the illness because they know that, okay, my family's being taken care of. Okay, there's someone set up a meal train. Okay, someone paid for parking for the hospital. Someone is going to run to CVS to go get gauze pads or whatever it is. How many times does my dad have to do that? Gas gift cards. Um, but above all, pray for them. Pray for their spirit. Pray for peace. Encourage them. Send them text messages. Send them scriptures. Send them cards in the mail. Um, Let them know that you love them. Let them know that you're there for them, even though if you can't be there for them personally or, in person, you can be there in other ways. Um, I know I was just greatly encouraged by all the cards I received in the hospital and all the prayers over my family and myself. Um, because the journey continues. Like after the patient leaves the hospital, it's the time of healing. And that can often be the hardest time um, for everyone because I couldn't go out and I couldn't do things. And I had all this stuff going on with my body. Um, and eventually I got there, but um, it takes time. So for that person who's hurting or in that dark place, be patient with yourself. It takes time. It's a journey. It will not happen overnight. I mean, miracles happen, but it takes time. I mean, I have all these scars to prove that, I've been through a lot and God has healed me, but there are still hard days. Um, Also, laughter. Laughter is healing. Being outside in nature is healing for me. It's one of the ways where I feel like God is talking to me, or I can just take a break. Like we'll go to the ocean. um, or, wherever, find your happy place. And just take time for yourself, or be that person to take that person, um, to healing places.
Mm.
Um, Let them, above all, I said prayer, but let them know you love them. Every individual is different. Everyone's going through a different heartache. Everyone's healing process is different. So patience too for that person going through it, and also the family, everyone involved. It's takes a lot of patience. Um, and also hospital visits too when it's appropriate. Don't linger. It's hard on the family, it's hard on the patient because they're not. I know for me, there were times when I was awake and there were people who truly just wanted to see me and make sure I was okay, but I wasn't able to have conversations, and I was out of it. I was on meds, I was tired, I had my brain cut open. I mean, all the things. So, I mean, that's definitely an option, but check with the family first, and um, timing is everything.
Mm.
So, and if it's space they want, then give them space.
Mm.
But again, they won't always tell you, so offer to help when and think when and if you think is necessary. Kind
Mm.
of try to put yourself in that person's position, like they have kids, okay, how can I help their children, or meal trains, like I said, and gift cards are very helpful
Mm.
because it's the whole family is involved. It's
Mhm.
not just the patient, because the patient needs the community um, of people to take care of them. So
Mm.
I
Wow.
have my favorite memory.
All right, I'll say the last question. So before we
Okay.
go, I always ask my friends this question, something a little more lighthearted and a way to end the podcast on a fun note. So my question is, Laura, what is your favorite memory of us together?
Well, I have several. I had to pick through quite a bit. So one is like kind of whatever, but we were at Glad Tidings and we were in the adult service. And we were in junior high. We thought we were so cool. And we were singing, Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary. Do you remember that? And we tried to do like a riff, like, Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary. Oh, we were just so proud of ourselves. So we came up with that on our own. Like,
Like no one's ever sang a riff in church
well, and I
before.
love that I had a friend that I could share like music with, because we both have that talent. And God, throughout the years has just blessed us in that area and that spiritual gift. Um, but moving on to my main, um, let me get the picture here.
Oh no, you got pictures? You got to point
I
to
can't
where
believe I kept all of these pictures. I
I did
mean,
too.
this trip meant so much to us. I mean, this was my first missions trip. That was my first time to New York. I mean, we were in junior high. And so to kind of share the story with everyone, our youth pastor at the time, um, and his wife, Walton Carey DeVries, um, was planning a trip to New York to do missions work with Brooklyn Tab. And the connection from our church at the time, Glad Tidings, the pastors at the time were Al and Chrissy Toledo. And Chrissy Toledo is the daughter of Jim Cymbala, who is the pastor, who was and still is the pastor at Brooklyn Tab. And her brother was one of the youth leaders. And so we did human videos. we got to do some sightseeing and saw the Statue of Liberty and um I've been back to New York a few times since then because my brother lives there and um just for other things too. But and I remember seeing the restaurant Junior's. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
We went and we had cheesecake or something. I don't know. Those were the days.
Those were the days. Junior high, man. There's
Yep.
nothing like it.
Oh man. I'm just so thankful that God has allowed us to reconnect, all these years from I mean we had fifth to eighth grade together and then, my family moved on and um our lives have been so busy and um I'm just thankful that he allowed us to reconnect.
Oh, well, I'm so thankful that we reconnected, and I've learned so much from you about your cancer journey. As many people listening may know, my mother-in-law was diagnosed with lung cancer last year, and as pastors, we are always helping people through problems. We're always, hearing their bad news and visiting them at the hospital and planning meal trains. But when it's your own family, it just hits a little different. And I've really appreciated
Yes.
talking to you as you've gone through things because it helps me not only support my mother-in-law, but my husband because it's going to affect him differently than me as his own mother. And even now, as you're sharing ideas, I'm thinking of all these ideas of things that I could do to encourage my in-laws that I haven't thought of before. And I just thank you so much that you shared all this because in this day and age, everyone has been affected by cancer or some health issue, whether it
Hmm.
was themselves or their family members. And I don't know about you all, but I want to be the best friend or family member I can be to someone who's suffering. And that's why I wanted to interview you, Laura, because not only do you have an incredible story, but you have incredible faith. And even though you have gone through dark times, all I've ever heard you say is that you trust in the Lord and that you feel Him with you, or you know He's with you, even if you don't feel like it. And so I really appreciate your honesty, sharing your testimony with that. So, anyway, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. You planned so much. You wrote everything out. You had your pictures. I thank you so much, and I just know God is going to use this to bless so many people out there, people who maybe don't have faith, who maybe even don't believe in Jesus, but they still
Yeah.
can learn from you. And maybe God
Yeah.
is speaking to them through this podcast, and maybe they might start to believe in God when they see your incredible faith and your trust. And that's all we've ever wanted, right? Is to share the gospel through our lives. And I know
Yeah.
we both thought we
That's
were going to be missionaries forever, but you know what? We can share the gospel in all kinds of ways, right?
we can. Yeah. That's my prayer is that people going through challenging times doesn't have to be cancer, it can be anything. Um, that they know that they're not alone. God is always there. He's always watching. He's always putting out his hand to hold us. And he's a loving God.
Amen. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening today. It would mean so much to you if you would share, subscribe, and tune into my podcast for more episodes. Please share this episode if you know someone who is struggling with health issues or has a family member who is, and hopefully this message will really touch them. And thank you everyone for being on the podcast today, and I hope you have a great week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.